Greetings, blessed tomorrow, Climate for Health and Path to Positive community ambassadors. It's been very heartening to see the dramatic growth in your numbers, over 2,000 of you in just months, and especially all the great work that you're doing. 3 times a year, we update our board and leadership circles on the bigger picture of climate change, and today we're going to share that same briefing with you. Unfortunately, it won't be a live discussion, but if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments section of this post. There's a ton of information in these updates, and you'll find links to all of it, either on the page of the PowerPoint or in the post below. We share all this information with a Creative Commons 4 license agreement. That means you can share it and use it as you see fit with attribution. And if you modify it or enhance it, you agree to share those enhancements with us too. Amidst all the climate impacts that we're seeing and reading about daily, and all the reports on eco-anxiety, this update focuses on solutions and people. We've titled it Between Impossible and Irreversible is Now. Basically, what that means is 10 years ago, we didn't have climate solutions. There were no utility scale batteries. Electric cars were still in the future. Wind and solar cost 3 or 4 times what they cost today. Hard to solve it 10 years ago. And 10 years from now, it's going to be too late. So the time to act is today. We're going to start with all the information that's out there. This year, there's been a major new report on climate change that has popped out basically every other week, and they're very useful. From the United Nations, including UNICEF and the World Health Organization, there are seminal reports on climate change in children and climate change in health. Those are in the top row. These are extraordinarily well-researched and detailed reports, great graphics, executive summaries, and all the detailed information that you could want. Also from the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change on the lower left, Working Group 1 report on where we're at with climate change, Working Group 2 report on human impacts, and Working Group 3 on solutions. A lot of the information in this presentation comes from those reports. They're thousands of pages long, but they come with fantastic highlights, summaries, and graphics. If you're into utilities and transportation, up on the top there, the third one from the left is the Bloomberg New Energy Finance Report. It's indispensable for information on utilities and transportation. And then on the eco-anxiety side, on the bottom there is our own climate change and mental health report. It is used globally. We just did a special briefing for the House Select Committee on Climate Change, the entire session just on this one report. And then just one more on this list on the lower right, that big 8 is the Deloitte report that they did a couple months ago, putting dollar figures on all the trillions of dollars we'll save by successfully addressing climate change and the trillions of additional costs that we'll have to bear if we don't. All of these, like I say, are just really useful. Click on the link, skim through the table of contents in the summary, and go as deep as you want. We have lots of information, and if you ever get information on the rapidly changing dynamics of climate change from your local news source or wherever, please share it with your colleagues on this ambassador platform. Lots of information. Amidst it are all the solutions, and let's get to that. On the right here, a month after Russia invaded Ukraine, the International Energy Agency came out with a set of immediately realizable actions that that can cut global energy use by 17%. All of these things are things that are being done now, and they just need to be scaled up, like banning downtown traffic on Sundays or lowering global speed limits just by 6 miles an hour. Implementing these simple changes would save 17% of global energy use basically immediately. And that's about the same amount as China uses. So lots of things that we can do immediately. And then on the left, the little colored bars, we've been all aiming for a 50% reduction in emissions by 2030. This table is from that Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC Working Group 3 report that shows how to do that, cut emissions in half by 2030. At the top, the two blue bars are solar and wind. In the second group down, the longer orange bars are nature. Stop cutting down forests and do sustainable agriculture. Then in the fourth section, there's smaller lines, which are all blue or gray, which indicates that they're realizable and cost effective. That's transportation. And basically all we have to do is electrify transportation, and we can save a lot of energy there. If we do these things, and we have to get to 50% by 2030, we are already in America 17% of that 50%. So we've got about 33% left to go. But it's a huge difference from where we were just months ago. A lot of us think that America isn't doing enough. We're not doing our share. We're not doing a lot. But there's a spectacular difference on where we were just 18 months ago. And you can see it in this slide. Right before the change in administrations, we introduced a new omnibus bill that basically was the starting point for the current administration's actions on climate change. $35 billion for renewable technology, lots of income assistance for lower income for renewable energy, sustainable transportation. It just basically got things started. And then in the first few months of the Biden administration, we reversed a lot of the negative administrative actions that were hurting climate solutions and put in a whole bunch more. I'd love to go through this list, but there's too many here. You can read it. And then again, the links are in the notes. But then just less than a year ago, November 2021, we were working all year on Build Back Better. We didn't get $550 billion, but we got $300 billion in the bipartisan infrastructure bill for new climate and clean energy programs. Lots of great things to protect communities against climate change adaptation, but much, much more on mitigation here. Transportation, clean energy, clean water, cleaning up legacy pollution sites. Just lots of the new climate core, the Justice 40 initiative, all that stuff is in this November 2021 bill. And then about, as we're recording this at the end of June, earlier this month, Biden used the Defense Production Act to take away tariffs on imported solar panels. We're basically set to triple and cripple the industry, and then introduced a lot of different actions to get America to build more heat pumps, more solar panels, and just keep the thing going. So maybe we could for certain have done more, but it's hard to, with the political polarization that we have, imagine that any of us could have done much better than we did, than we've done in the past 18 months. And you can see it happening all around the world. This is just in the transportation sector. The little graph at the top on the left is how many electric vehicles exist in the world at any given point. And right now in 2022, there are 20 million electric vehicles globally. In just 3 years, that's going to quadruple to 80 million electric vehicles. And then if you look at the graph just to the immediate right of that, by 2040, there's going to be 800 million. That's basically, in graphs of time, a straight up line. We're going to replace half the cars in the world by 2040. Half of them will all be electric, and probably more, because if you look under the title on the left, it says, this is from the Bloomberg New Energy Report that I mentioned at the beginning, economic transition scenario. And what that means is that that's without government intervention, that the cost dynamics, the performance dynamics of electric cars are so strong that they're going to take over the market no matter what anybody does. On the lower part of this slide, Bloomberg compares that economic transition scenario to a net zero scenario where governments implement things to provide incentives and disincentives for electric cars. So like the leaders on the left, Germany's going to get to, in this scenario, 100% electric cars by 2040. But if they provide more incentives, they can get there 10 years earlier. And so can the rest of the world. We can all accelerate that already dramatic curve at the top. We're moving toward transportation solutions. That's 29% of American emissions that is going to be, cut in half by 2040 for sure, and probably a lot more. Another way of looking at solutions is what Europe is doing in response to the Ukraine war. They've passed, the European Union has passed a legislation which basically is called Repower EU. And what they've committed to do is doubling. They have a lot more solar energy than we have right now, and they've committed to doubling it in 3 years. Tenfold increase in North Sea wind power. They're going to reduce energy usage in the continent by 9 to 13% by 2030. A whole bunch of different things that are just going to enable them to get away from Russian natural gas, but it also is going to enable them to get away from climate pollution. We're making impressive investments. We can do the same thing. It's just, it's just a matter of public support and political will. And these 3 reports. This is Catherine Hayhoe's book that came out last November. She's a globally leading climate scientist. And she basically starts out this book and says, hey, I've written lots of books. It's all about climate scientists, but there's nothing really about science in here. It's all about that the solution to climate change is people. And in the middle report, Hamburg Climate Futures Outlook from last year, it's the same thing. They've been telling us for years that it's feasible for us to solve climate change, but whether or not we can overcome the power of the fossil fuel industries and some political interests, that's going to make the difference in whether or not we solve climate change or not. So the little quote there says, unless the enabling conditions of social drivers delivering a radical boost in the coming years, more social drivers reaching worldwide deep decarbonization by 2050 isn't plausible. And then there's been a variety of other reports, with this one on the coupled climate and social system impacts, where they modeled 3,000 different scenarios about how people would react and what bills were. This is February this year. It just points out that we need people. And so that's what ecoAmerica is. We're the people side of climate change, and we've been pretty successfully at building a critical mass of institutional leadership. Over 100 national organizations right now participate in our programs, and they're all trying to build public support and political will for climate solutions in the U.S. So, we want to have visible national leadership. We want these organizations to all have it as one of their strategic priorities. We want them to engage their memberships, tens of millions of people, and empower climate advocacy and action. So that's in the 3 ecoAmerica websites and the ecoAmerica General website, tons and tons of resources on all that stuff. Some of the new stuff, we're doing what we call local action, national purpose. We've got enough national organizations. Now we have to help them provide resources to all of their congregations or clinics or community organizations that they serve. And so we have come up with a series of what we call climate action sheets that are, one side is what you need to know, the other side is what you need to do. And instead of getting a 40-page report that you've got to dig through, it's really quick, actionable stuff. What you need to know, what you need to do, and in your neighborhood, in your community, in your workplace or congregation, and with policymakers. And now we're coming out with specific ones on things like climate restoration, communications, and food. So I encourage you to go to Path to Positive, Blessed Tomorrow, or Climate for Health, the websites there, or the ecoAmerica website, and check out climate action sheets and the other resources. I mentioned at the very beginning on that second slide, the mental health and climate change report, widely used. If you want to know about the mental health implications of climate change on children and what you can do about that, just go to that report. And it's there. If we want to do communities, what happens when a community burns down? What happens to the communities around it? It's in there. It's about a 90-page read with over 500 footnotes in it, because it's just a Bible of information on mental health and climate change. But that's just part of the research that we do. Every other month, we issue a new research report on where Americans are at various parts of climate change. And you can go scroll those. Probably the best place is the ecoAmerica website under research, and you'll see them grouped in there. But if you ever have something like you think we need to know more about this, feel free to get it to the ambassador staff, send us an email, because we do this so often and it's set up, we can research other things. And then just two other things that you can participate that we'd like to invite you to participate in going forward. The American Climate Leadership Awards, we're doing the 4th year of that in 2023. First prize is $50,000. And then basically you apply, and then if you're selected as a semifinalist, 30 of them, we give you $1,000 just to complete what we call a replication guide, just a 2-page to 4-page description of why you've been successful and how other people can replicate it. This can be an individual or an organization. And then from that, we've got a fantastic panel of judges that will pick 10 finalists that will all get at least $10,000, and then the runner-up and the winner. So it's $175,000 awards, and that's going to be launching in August this month. It'll be on the Ambassador platform and on all of our websites, but we invite you to submit yourself, your organization. You can nominate other people that you think are doing great work, and then we'll try to share that. And if you go to the various websites, you will find the replication guides. There's 6 of them posted here of a successful grassroots frontline organizing in other things that are addressing climate change. And then we just did a 4-day climate summit in March. And the first 2 days are general information on climate change. Day 3 is on health. Day 4 is on faith. You can go to any, again, of the ecoAmerica websites, and you can go through those and pick the topics that interest you. Like if you want to learn about mental or maternal health and climate change, you can scroll to the health thing, go down and see that session, and get the state-of-the-art best expert speakers on maternal health and climate change. So I think that's about it in terms of the update presentation that we give. And I just want to, again, thank you for watching. Thank you for being an ambassador, and I'm looking forward to continue making progress toward 50% by 2030 and net zero by 2050. Thank you.